Hello foodies and welcome into another video. Just this month, I did a video talking about which of Dead by Daylight survivors would make the best killers. Naturally, I now want to flip the script and consider the alternative, that being killers who would make for good survivors. Now, one important thing to note with this idea is that I'm not implying that this is a thing the behavior would ever do. To be clear, I don't think they will. While the ambiguous rules of the fog leave the door open for all kinds of experimentation, I doubt we ever actually see a playable killer switch sides. Still, it's fun to think about, so I thought I'd go ahead with this video. Oh, and as a fun little bonus, I'm going to give every hypothetical survivor a trio of teachable perks borrowed from existing characters. Let's begin. First up, we have the Hag, one of the game's longest tenured killers, and also one of its most tragic. Unlike most of the game's baddies, Lisa Sherwood is unequivocally not evil. There is no gray morality with her. She was taken, she was abused, and she fought back. That kind of resolve in the face of danger would make for a great survivor. One who gets stronger as the situation grows ever more dire. Because it was Hag who introduced Dead by Daylight to Hex Totems, Lisa would need to possess at least one boon-based teachable perk. Ideally, all three of her perks would be boons, but that might be overkill. Precisely what Lisa's boons do would be up for debate, but I'd love to see them in the game. Because we are giving each hypothetical survivor 3 existing perks, let's give Lisa a perk set consisting of Felix Richter's Desperate Measures and then two boon perks, those being Michaela Reed's Shadow Step and Jonah Vasquez's Exponential. Next, we'll move over to the Death Slinger, a choice I'm sure will surprise many viewers, but I think it holds up. The thing is, I enjoy morally ambiguous survivors like Yun Jin Lee and Jonah Vasquez, so I'd be more than happy to see Caleb Quinn in an alternative role. I'm not going to argue that Caleb was a decent man, but you can say that most of his rough edges can be attributed to the brutality that molded him. Long before he became a hardened criminal, Caleb was a hyper-intelligent, highly driven man whose intelligence was truly singular. Quinn was a tinkerer and an inventor, a man with a natural knack for anything related to cogs or elbow grease. In short, I classify Caleb Quinn as the type of guy that you might not really want on your team, but you'd definitely rather that than have to go against him. Caleb's perks, which again we're borrowing from existing chapters, would be Nia Carlson's Streetwise, Felix Richter's Built to Last, and Fengmen's Technician. When it comes to Caleb Quinn, getting the most out of your tools and machinery would be the biggest emphasis. From a Wild West outlaw to a modern day delinquent, let's now talk about the next hypothetical survivor, that being Susie Levoix of the Legion, and I hope I got her last name right. I know that she's from Canada, it looks French to me. I apologize if I butchered it. I considered putting Joey here since he is my personal favorite Legion member, but we just know so much less about him than any other member of the Legion, so it was kind of hard to factor in his personality. But that being said, you can imagine him in here if you'd like, and also we do know a good bit about Susie and how she might function as a survivor, so let's go with that. Because here's the thing, I'm aware that Susie isn't what we in the real world would call a good person. She's undeniably a murderer, and for some people, she's too far gone to be redeemed. But when compared to her fellow Legion members, Susie begins to look a lot more defensible. From a certain perspective, Susie's just a socially awkward teen who was roped into a bad situation that quickly lost control, and she didn't know how to get out of it. Though admittedly some of her cosmetic lore changes that later on, but I'm kind of going with the core lore here. While I'm not here to absolve Susie of the crimes she definitely committed and should definitely face repercussions for, she's not nearly as bad as Frank or Julie. Susie and Joey seem to be more of the Zuko to Frank and Julie's Azula, right? They've done bad things, but they're not irredeemably evil. Interestingly, I see a survivor Susie, or Joey, playing out a lot like their killer counterparts. I think they'd be survivors where teamwork is everything. Susie doesn't like facing the world alone, and I think her perks should reflect that. For Susie, I would like to see her perks be Dwight Fairfield's Bond, Cheryl Mason's Blood Pact, and Nancy Wheeler's Better Together. Next, we move on to our fourth selection, this one being Adiris the Plague. Before becoming one of the entity's many, many servants, Adiris was a woman of tremendous faith and great empathy. If we grade her on a curve, which you really have to do for most of DBD's roster of killers, Adiris grades out as being a generally good person, though her demons were very real. Overall, Adiris cared deeply about her people, and even convened with them to the point of death. For this reason, I think Zarina Kassir's For the People makes a world of sense as an Adiris perk. She could also use Claudette Morel's empathy and Jeff Johansson's aftercare to round out her perks, even though I guess those are kind of redundant together. Lastly, we move to another morally gray option, this one being the Blight, now known only as Talbot Grimes. Of all the characters I've listed to this point, Grimes is likely the most outwardly reprehensible. Lisa, Caleb, Susie, and Adiris were all victims in their own ways, but Grimes is mostly just a scientist who took things way too far. He committed himself entirely to the concept of progress, forgetting, meanwhile, that one can progress closer to the edge of a cliff, and progress is not always a good thing. For Talbot, progress and better understanding are their own rewards. As such, he would make for a terrific survivor, though probably not one you would entrust with your life. Grimes would find himself enamored with the entity, desperate to better understand the Lovecraftian beast and how it works. For Talbot, every trial would be a fresh opportunity to understand a frightening but fascinating new world. Due to his inquisitive mind, I see Grimes coming equipped with Claudette Morel's botany knowledge, David Tapp's detective hunch, and the best perk in the game, Adam Francis's autodidact. And that is going to do it for me. Please do let me know down below which killers you would be interested to see as survivors, or if you just think this is a silly idea that it's not even worth talking about. But as always, I have ideas and I like to share them with you. So, you know, this was almost just fanfic on my part, right? Like, it was almost just me saying, hey, here's some characters I like, and hey, wouldn't it be cool if they weren't like vicious murderers? But that's gonna do it for me here. I do hope you enjoyed it. Please do like and subscribe if you haven't. And until next time, I've been Dust Food. Bye, friends.
I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating. I'm feeding this demon. Got a taste, can't erase bitterness in my